What's up guys, my name is Ace and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats as well as some excellent attachment combinations for every gun in Black Ops 6. And in today's episode, we're going to be covering the brand new Sirin 9mm. And just a quick note at the beginning, I am pre-recording this before it's officially live, and I'm not going to be supporting pay for early access to actual playable in-game items, so I didn't buy the bundle for this. So the gameplay you're seeing in the background will be just in custom games against bots. The gameplay isn't the important part of this video though, it's all about the stats as well as the setups, which are optimized nicely. Although very basic with this gun. But without further ado, let's dive into our damage profile. And with this gun, it's going to be a 4 to 6 shot kill. And when it comes to headshot damage, we actually get a pretty decent multiplier at 1.3, which means in that maximum damage range, if you mix 2 headshots in with a body shot, you can actually get a 3-shot kill. So headshots are actually not too bad with this gun. And this is normally where I'd cover the CHF barrel. However, this gun doesn't have a CHF barrel. So let's move into our rate of fire, which is 500 rounds per minute. And that's quite a slow rate of fire for a full auto gun. And what this means is our 4-shot time to kill potential is 360 milliseconds, which is quite a slow, close range time to kill in this game. When you compare it to the pistols in this game, which I know this gun isn't in the pistol category, it's in the special secondary category, but I am going to be comparing it to the pistols in this game for obvious reasons. This is actually quite a slow time to kill for pistols. And therefore, if you want to get a decent competitive time to kill, you have to land those 2 headshots mixed in with a body shot up close, and this will give you a time to kill value at 240 milliseconds. And unfortunately, when it comes to time to kill, that's the only thing you can really do to improve the time to kill on this gun, since just like with the CHF barrel, we also don't have access to rapid fire on the Sirin 9mm. Next up, let's have a look at our damage ranges, and as we can see here, our first 2 damage ranges will actually give us a 4-shot kill potential to the body, which is nice. However, it's only that first damage range where headshots are going to do anything for you. But that overall 4-shot kill potential extends out to about 16.5 meters, which is not bad. Then the 1 barrel attachment we do have access to is the long barrel, which will improve our range values by 25%. That's a pretty nice boost. And it's also worth noting our bullet velocity can't be changed on this gun. It's 480 milliseconds. And this gives us a hit scan range of 24 meters, which is coincidentally pretty similar to our 5-shot kill potential. Now, just for comparison's sake, I wanted to throw out the other pistols here so you can see how they perform relative to the Sirin 9mm. And as you can see, at least up close, all of the pistols will be killing faster than the Sirin 9mm, aside from the Strider 22. However, with the Strider 22, at least we have access to rapid fire, so that value can be improved, whereas you can't really improve that with the Sirin 9mm unless you're landing those headshots. So it really doesn't stand out in the time to kill department. However, the range values are pretty standard for a pistol, I would say. The only thing I'd say that really excels here over pistols is our bullet velocity and therefore our hit scan range. And this just leaves us with hardcore game modes, and our 1-shot kill potential will extend into our first 2 damage ranges, so 16.5 meters to the body. However, we do have an infinite 1-shot kill potential to the head as long as you're not shooting through some form of cover in hardcore. Then let's get into our hipfire spread, which is actually quite similar to all of the pistols in this game, so nothing out of the ordinary there. It's actually pretty decent with hipfire up close. And now let's get into our recoil. And as you can see here, there's quite a bit of vertical recoil that actually goes way off my target here. And therefore, with my recoil plot, I'm just going to show you guys the first 20 rounds for comparison's sake. You shouldn't be firing more than 20 rounds at a time anyway. And while that vertical magnitude is technically quite high and there are jumps between each shot, it's quite predictable and controllable recoil. There's not a whole lot of horizontal recoil there. It's very easy to get a handle on this, especially with the slower rate of fire that this gun has. So I wouldn't really call recoil a big issue with this gun. However, we can of course improve that with the suppressor, which is our only muzzle attachment, so I'm going to keep that as a constant here with this, since if you have it unlocked, it would be silly not to use this due to the limited attachment options we have on this. And this one is going to help with our initial recoil. And this just leaves us with 2 other options to affect our recoil on this gun, and they are both in the underbarrel grip department. First, we have the vertical grip, so combined with the suppressor, this is what our recoil looks like. You can see it really significantly cuts down on that vertical recoil, and makes it that much easier to handle, especially at longer ranges. And then the other option is our lightweight grip, which doesn't help as much as the vertical grip does, but it's still helping with that recoil control. It still makes it a little bit easier to handle than the base version of the gun, especially with those initial shots fired, although most of that part is coming down to the suppressor, which again, you should be using a suppressor as long as you've got it unlocked. Now after that, let's get into our handling stats, and our aim down sight time is 200 milliseconds, which is a bit on the slow side if we're comparing it to pistols. And it's a similar story with our sprint to fire time. It is on the slow side if you're comparing to pistols, but if you're comparing to any other weapon class, it's quite fast at 130 milliseconds. And then with our slide to fire time, this is 320 milliseconds, which is more what you would expect with an SMG in this game. Therefore, it is noticeably slower than pistols. And our dive to fire time is somewhere in between pistols and SMGs at around 350 milliseconds based on my hand testing. Then when it comes to our reload add time, this is 1.55 seconds, which is not bad, not great, just kind of okay, I guess. And it does have a 32 round magazine by default, which combined with a really slow rate of fire, that's a big magazine capacity. It's gonna take you a long time to get through an entire magazine, so that's nice. However, we do have the option to improve our reload speed while harming our magazine capacity with the fast mag. This will give us a 25 round capacity with a reload speed of 1.25 seconds, or we could get a slightly larger magazine capacity at 40 rounds with extended mag 1, and that will slow our reload time down to 1.82 seconds. Personally, I think the default magazine is just fine on this gun, but there are options if you want to take advantage of them. And this just leaves us with our mobility stats, and across the board, our mobility stats are actually average for SMGs, not pistols, so it's going to be moving slower than the other pistols in the game. And this is yet another area that just clearly defines this as sort of an SMG pistol hybrid. That's really what they seem to be going for with this gun. And I think it's the primary reason this is in its own special category and not the pistol category in the game. But this is definitely something you want to be aware of, because if you frequently swap over to your pistol in order to get a faster movement speed to get from point A to point B a little bit faster, the Sirin 9mm is not going to be your best bet, especially if you're already using an SMG in your hand. Although, of course, you could argue that's what the dedicated melee slot is best for. And with all of that out of the way, we can finally get into some excellent attachment combinations, which, I'll be honest, there aren't very many ways that you can build this gun. Our attachment selection is insanely limited. We only have access to 5 attachment slots in general, so for free, we can use all of these attachment slots up. And in these slots, there's only ever going to be 1 to 2 options to use, so obviously that limits what you can do. But the first build I'm going to share for you guys is my Strafe and Sprintout build. So with this one, I'm actually not using anything in the optic slot, simply because I really like the default iron sights more than the iron sight you can put on, and I don't want the optic on this one. We of course have the suppressor. Like I said, if you're not using this, you're doing something wrong. Same thing with the long barrel. It's a free attachment. There's no other choice within that attachment category, and it's all upsides for using this, so you should be using this. And then with this one, we're using the lightweight foregrip, and this one's going to help with our sprint out time, and more importantly, our strafe speed and our aim walking steadiness and idle sway. So it's going to be a lot more steady when strafing in gunfights. However, it does come with a small downside, and that is a very slight reduction to our aim down sight speed. It's now 210 milliseconds. That's not stated in the cons, but it is stated in the advanced stats. And then I chose to just leave the magazine slot empty here as well. I like the default magazine capacity and the default reload speed. I found there's a nice balance there. So with this build at least, I keep that one empty. And that's the first one. And if I choose to use this gun as a secondary, that's typically the one I'll go with. Whereas if I want to use it more as a primary weapon, I'm typically going to go with my second build, which is my accuracy and ADS build. So with this one, we are using that carry handle sight. Although if you don't like it, you don't have to use it, of course. Obviously, we're using the suppressor and long barrel, as you should be. And this time we're using the vertical foregrip, which gives us much better recoil overall, as well as an improvement to our aim down sight speed with a slight downside to our sprint out time, which again is not stated in the cons, but it is stated in the advanced stats. It's only a 5 millisecond difference anyway. But then finally, we are topping this off with the extended mag 1, since with this build, I'm going to be using it more as a primary weapon, and it's just nice to not have to reload quite as often. And that's pretty much it. It is a very self-explanatory setup. And with that, that's going to wrap it up today's gun guide on the Sirin 9mm. As for my thoughts on this gun, honestly, I was a little bit disappointed in it. I don't think it's all that great. Most of the time for my secondary weapon, I would rather have a pistol in my hands. And I'm just really not seeing too much of an advantage to using this, outside of the fact that it has a huge magazine capacity. It's full auto, so it's fairly easy to use, but it's just not very powerful. And I'd rather go with like the Recoil, for instance, if I want a full auto pistol that kills very noticeably faster and is going to be generally more effective as a pistol. Now, in saying that, I understand why they went this direction with the balance to keep it in check, because you wouldn't want to make a gun like this too powerful, because then it would just be the obvious choice, and you don't want to make it just as good as a primary weapon with it being in the secondary category. I just wish there was maybe something you could do to make it a little bit better, maybe some more interesting attachments attached to it that would allow you to gain some upsides while having some clear downsides attached, like rapid fire, for instance. That would be nice as long as they balance things appropriately there. But of course, those are just my opinions, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this gun in those comments down below. And if you guys have missed any of the previous gun guides, I will leave a link to the playlist in the description of the video. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.